You were never going to have a normal life. That much was decided before your first breath. Your father was Zeus, king of the gods, a name so powerful it could shake mountains and ruin homes in the same moment. Your mother was mortal, which meant you were born between worlds. Too divine to belong among ordinary men. Too human to escape pain. People would later speak of your strength as if it were a blessing. They would tell your story like it was a glorious march from one triumph to the next. They would carve your muscles in marble, drape lion skin over your shoulders, and call you the greatest hero who ever lived. But that is not what your life feels like from the inside. From the inside, your story is not about glory. It is about what happens when a man is given enough strength to kill monsters, but not enough peace to protect the people he loves. Born as a weapon, even as a child, your life does not belong to you. Before you can speak, you are already hated. Hera, queen of the gods, sees your existence as an insult carved into flesh. You are living proof of Zeus's betrayal, and for that, she wants you erased. So death comes for you early, not in the form of war, or age, or sickness. It comes slithering into your cradle. Two serpents slide through the dark, sent to strangle you before you are old enough to know fear. But fear is a luxury for other children. You grab them in your tiny hands and crush them before the adults around you can even scream. And that is how your life begins. Not with a lullaby, not with tenderness, with killing. Everyone who sees it understands the same thing at once. You are not meant for an ordinary fate. You're something else, something dangerous, something made to survive what should have destroyed you. As you grow, your strength becomes impossible to hide. You break tools by accident. You overpower boys older than you without trying. Teachers do not know whether to instruct you or fear you. Every room you enter feels too small for what is inside you. And the worst part is this: people stop seeing a child. They see power. They see potential. They see a future full of glorious violence. Long before you become a hero, you're already being shaped into a weapon. As you become a man, the world starts asking things from you. No one says it gently. A body like yours is not allowed to live quietly. Strength demands a purpose. Men look at your hands and imagine monsters dying in them. Kings hear your name and think of impossible tasks. Crowds want a champion. Poets want a legend. The world does not ask what you want. It asks what you can destroy. And for a while, you try to become what they need. You train. You fight. You win. Everywhere you go, people begin speaking of you with that dangerous tone reserved for men becoming myths. You're not just strong. You are Hercules, a name that starts to sound bigger than the person wearing it. You marry. For a brief moment, life almost softens. There is a home. There is laughter. There are small domestic sounds that do not belong to legend. Footsteps, voices, the fragile rhythm of a family built in the shadow of your fame. In those moments, you can almost imagine another life. One in which strength is only strength and not destiny. One in which your hands are used to carry children instead of ending lives. This is the cruelest part of your story. Not that you were denied peace from the beginning, but that you were allowed to taste it first. Because once you know what peace feels like, losing it becomes its own kind of death. The night you destroy everything. The great monster of your life is not the Nemean lion. It is not the Hydra. It is not Cerberus. It is not anything with claws or scales or venom. It is madness. Hera does not forget you. She does not forgive. And when the time comes, she strikes not at your body, but at your mind. The madness comes like fire in a closed room. It distorts everything. Faces become threats. Love becomes danger. Reality twists under divine cruelty until the people in front of you are no longer your wife and children, but something else, something your shattered mind believes must be destroyed. And because you are Hercules, when madness takes you, it takes the strongest man alive. When it ends, the silence is unbearable. You wake not to victory, but to horror. The house is still. The air is wrong. And slowly, with the speed of a blade entering flesh, the truth reaches you. You did this. Not a monster. Not an enemy. Not a god. You. All the strength in your body, all the glory waiting in your future, all the greatness the world will one day celebrate. And none of it mattered in the one moment that counted most. You could not save your family from the thing that wore your face. That is the wound at the center of your life. Everything that follows grows from it. People will remember the labors. They will remember the monsters, the victories, the impossible feats. But your real story begins here, in the ashes of what you loved, kneeling before a truth too large to survive. The strongest man in the world was powerless where it mattered most. And now you must go on living. The 12 labors of a broken man. This is where legend begins. But legend is just suffering retold by people who are not there. You're ordered to serve, to endure, to atone. 12 labors, they say, as if the number matters more than the agony. As if grief can be counted and paid off like a debt. So you go. You kill the Nemean lion, whose hide cannot be pierced, and wear its skin like proof that flesh can become armor. You face the Hydra, discovering that some evils multiply when wounded. You chase sacred beasts, subdue monstrous creatures, clean filth so vast it feels biblical, cross lands no ordinary man could survive, descend toward the borders of death itself. Each laborer makes you greater in the eyes of the world. Each laborer makes you lonelier in your own. That is the secret no bard likes to dwell on. Every triumph distances you further from ordinary life. Every impossible deed confirms that you are no longer truly one of the people cheering for you. When you drag Cerberus from the underworld, they call it heroic. But what does heroism mean to a man who has already failed at the only task that ever truly mattered? The labors are supposed to purify you. That is what the stories say. But purification is too clean a word. What really happens is harsher. You become useful in your pain. The world takes the ruined parts of you and turns them into spectacle. You are sent wherever terror lives because everyone knows one thing. Hercules will survive. Hercules will finish the task. Hercules will do what no one else can do. And maybe that is true, but survival is not healing. Completing a labor is not the same as forgiveness. No matter how many monsters you strangle, no matter how many impossible burdens you bear, there is no final moment when your family walks back through the door. There is no victory large enough to silence memory. So you keep moving. You keep fighting. You let the next task come, because stopping would mean hearing your own thoughts clearly. And somewhere along the way, the world stops seeing your punishment and starts seeing your greatness. That is how tragedy becomes myth. A legend the world loves, a man the world cannot hold. By now, your name has grown beyond you. Kings invoke it, soldiers admire it. Common people whisper it with a mixture of comfort and fear. To them, you are the man who can descend into horror and return carrying proof of victory in his bare hands. You are what parents tell children about when they want them to believe that strength can conquer chaos. But myths are built from the outside. Inside, you are tired. Not the simple tiredness of battle. Not the ache of bruised flesh or wounded bone. A deeper exhaustion. The kind that comes from being turned into a symbol before you are allowed to remain a man. Because that is what fame does to you now. It steals the last private corners of your suffering. People do not want Hercules the grieving husband. They want Hercules the lion slayer. Hercules the giant killer. Hercules the impossible man. They want the version of you that makes the world feel safer. Not the version that reminds them strength cannot protect innocence forever. So you keep becoming what they need. You fight in more wars. You perform more feats. You keep building the legend because the legend is easier for others to carry than the truth. And the truth is unbearable. Your greatness did not save your home. Your victories did not restore what was lost. Your fame did not make you less haunted. This is the paradox of your life. The more extraordinary you become, the less room there is for your grief. And yet the grief never leaves. It follows behind every cheer, every feast, every tale of your glory. It sits beside you in silence after the crowds are gone. It waits in the dark, patient and undefeated. By this point, the world loves Hercules. But love of legend is not the same as love of a human being. A legend can be admired from a distance. A man has to live with himself. The end of the man, the birth of the god. In the end, your death does not come like a clean, heroic ending. It comes with pain, poison, burning. The body that carried impossible burdens for years becomes a prison at last. Flesh fails, strength fails, endurance, even yours, reaches its limit. And perhaps that is fitting. Your life was never about invincibility. It only looked that way from far away. From up close, your life is the story of a man asked to endure more than a man should endure. A man built for conquest, but not spared from sorrow. A man who could tear apart lions and still be destroyed by guilt, memory, and the cruelty of gods. When the pyre is raised, it is not only a body being consumed. It is the mortal part of you. The part that suffered, the part that loved, the part that failed, the part that kept going anyway. And then comes the final transformation. In many tellings, you're taken up to Olympus. The suffering man becomes an immortal figure. The tormented hero becomes divine. It sounds like reward. Maybe it is. Or maybe it is simply the only ending grand enough for a life so full of pain. The world cannot leave Hercules as just a broken man. That would be too honest, too frightening. So it lifts you into the heavens, where people can worship what they could not understand on earth. And that is how they will remember you. Not kneeling in the ruins of your home, not staring at the bodies of the people you loved, not carrying grief like an invisible chain through every labor that followed. They will remember the muscles, the lion's skin, the monsters, the triumphs. They will remember the god. But if this is truly your life, if we stay with it from the inside instead of polishing it into legend, then the truth is darker and far more human. Your life as Hercules is not the story of the strongest man who ever lived. It is the story of a man given enough power to defeat almost anything except the one thing that mattered most, the catastrophe inside his own life. That is why your story survives. Not because you were invincible, but because you were not. Because beneath the myth, beneath the impossible strength, beneath the marble statues and heroic songs, there is something much more difficult to forget. A man who lost everything, performed miracles after the loss, and was still never fully freed from it. That is Hercules. Not merely the hero who conquered monsters, but the hero who could not save his family, and had to become a legend while carrying that truth to the end.